Hello and welcome to another Boroshin's Retrospectives. Today covering Art of Fighting 3, The Path of the Warrior. This is a fighting game made by SNK in 1996 for the Neo Geo multi-video system. As I say, I'll just be playing a bit, showing you what it's all about, and basically seeing what I think of the game. Now, this game, I'll start off from an artistic standpoint, I think, here. It looks really good, man. The sprite work is top-notch, as you'd expect from SNK in the 90s. They were on top of it. The actual game itself has a very interesting... This was across all of the art fighting games, but when the characters get far apart, you'll see that the camera pans out. Which can create a bit of a... It does sort of distort the sprites a bit. It can be a bit weird. But it's an interesting system. Now that would be seen, like, no one would even notice that it's even there. But it's an interesting mechanic. It just allows you to have these massive sprites up close. They basically cover most of the screen when they're fighting up close. Now on the gameplay, feels very weird. Like, in terms of, like, in comparison to other SNK fighting games, you at first would feel that it's a bit clunky. Feels like you're a bit restricted in your movement. It feels a bit rigid, but it's actually got some interesting stuff. The game's a 3-button fighter. You've got a punch, a kick, a hard attack, and then you have on D, you just have a taunt. Now taunting is very important in this game, which is mainly to do with the game's main system, which is the spirit gauge. Now, as you'll see beneath the life bars of both characters, you'll see this green gauge, or it changes colours, but basically in order to do any special moves, super moves, whatever, you have to spend the spirit gauge, and the way you can charge this back up by pressing A, B and C together. Obviously you're literally stationary, you can't do anything while doing it, so you have to manage this gauge. Now when you taunt someone, I do believe I do it to Jin actually in this fight at some point, or I might have done it to Robert, I don't know. But when you taunt someone, it basically steals their spirit. Their spirit gauges just gets dropped massively. So taunting's actually got an incredible use in this game. You can make it harder for your opponent to do anything. Also, specials will have multiple levels of effectiveness. Basically, when you're high on spirit, they're the most effective, and then when you're lower, they'll lose property. So they might do less damage, they might not knock down, etc., etc. But yeah, the game's also got rush combos, so sort of dial in, sort of not a bit Mortal Kombat X style, I guess, or Mortal Kombat style, of like A forward C or something like that. So it's got these sort of rush combos where you sort of dial it in. The game also has desperation moves. When you're low on life, your character begins. You'll notice when characters have gotten low on life, they'll begin flashing red. This allows you to do your desperation attack. When you now the desperation attacks do a huge amount of damage. They require 75% of the spirit gauge. However, in this game they added in a mechanic where you can get what's known as an ultimate KO, which is where if you kill an opponent who's very low on life with your desperation attack, you actually just win the entire match. Doesn't matter how many rounds you've won or if you haven't won any. You'll actually see it in this fight. I was incredibly lucky. I didn't think that I would actually get to show you this, but while I was recording, I managed to hit a... you'll see it here. But yeah, Kasumi's quite low on life, and I hit him, and as you can see, the all of her attire shreds off. It's pretty cool. Every character does that. And it's just a really cool feature. It's an interesting feature. I mean, the desperation attacks usually have a huge amount of startup in this game, so it's quite risky to go for them, to be honest. But they do pay off. This right here is one of my favourite stages in the game. I love this stage. I think it demonstrates SNK's artistry in the. I mean, man, it just looks so good. Looks so good. But yeah, it's a very interesting fighting game. It feels so different from other SNK games, but I do like it. It's interesting. The game features a predominantly completely new cast. That's a Ryo's Desperation move, the Ryo Garambu. But it features, yeah, a predominantly new cast. They changed the main character from Ryo to Robert, hence why Robert's the first character on the character select screen. But yeah, they went with some interesting characters. For instance, Kasumi Todo. This is the first game she's in, and she was featured in King of Fighters 96 in turn with this. Now, in a minute here, I'm going to actually allow you to just listen to the music a bit, because the musical direction in this game is quite interesting, and I really, particularly with this stage, I just really like the music. So I thought I'd let you listen instead of having to listen to my voice. But yeah, I'll catch you back in a minute. I hope you like that music. I think it's really good. One of the better pieces in the Art of Fighting 3 soundtrack. A very different soundtrack to most of SNK's other titles. It has a lot of the tracks in it are actually basic remixes of the other themes. They have this like central theme going through the game, which is quite interesting. Here's another one of the new characters, Wanko-san. He hasn't been in anything else, but he's kind of cool. He's got like a pelican who's in his bag. He's quite an interesting character. Shows up in King of Fighters 2002 Unlimited Match in the background, one of the stages. So he's but yeah, most of the characters that debuted in this game were not that popular. Like, they haven't come back. The one that's actually been in quite a few games is actually Kasumi Todo, but she was related to the previous Art of Fighting character in Art of Fighting 1, Todo. So she at least had some sort of story connection. But yeah, a lot of the characters, although they're quite cool, for instance, the character I was playing before, Roddy Burtz, I think he's really cool. They didn't really catch on, so didn't really get to see them. I love the victory screens in this game; they're really nice. What are my thoughts with the game? Well, while it is sort of standard SNK, the difficulty spikes through the roof. You'll see this here. Sinclair is basically the mid boss of the game, sort of like sub boss, and it reads your inputs like all hell, way more than Fatal Fury did, Fatal Fury 3, or any of the other games I've previously looked at, and any SNK game I've really played. This game really goes for it. I do like the stage. I like Sinclair's stage. It's really cool in Wilder's Mansion. I don't know, the gameplay, while I do like it in some ways, if you compare it has dated. The gameplay certainly has dated in terms of how clunky it is, how like it feels quite restrictive. I'm sure there's quite a bit you could do with it, like systems, and I'm sure there's some pretty weird combos you can get away with. But I would say that is a fault. But in terms of, I feel its artistic presentation, its music, is probably the highlight of the game. It's what stands out. I think it's got a very clean presentation. This was the final Art of Fighting title before they just moved on. Fatal Fury was more popular. Art of Fighting was never as popular as Fatal Fury, and the King of Fighters series has just started powering on. KOF 96 was huge when it came out, so they just ended up not creating another one, which is a bit sad, but understandable. I hope you've enjoyed this retrospective look at Art of Fighting 3, and I'll see you next time.